everyone. I'm sitting here with award-winning and best-selling author Elif Shafak, and we just did a conversation together for Sternstunde Philosophie, and we are now having a cup of tea together.
Absolutely.
After having read your book, one cannot help but notice that you love food. Food is really important for you. For example, baklava. Yes. We have brought some baklava. It's a Turkish treat, or I don't know, should I say a Greek treat? You even mentioned in another conversation that there is some sort of baklava war going on.
Yes, I'm very interested in food, and I think food is always more than food, you know. There's a character in my... It looks lovely. There's a character in my new novel called Mariam, and I feel like I know her because I was raised by women like her. My grandmother was like her. And these are women who want to tell you things, but they don't know how. So instead they feed you. And they retain this belief, almost naive belief, that if we can only sit around the same table and break bread together, maybe there will be less misunderstandings and hostilities around the world. So for them, food is a language. It's how they express themselves. And I like the way food transcends national boundaries. As you said, in the Levant, we have these baklava wars. The Lebanese think they make the best baklava. The Syrians believe their baklava is the best. We Turks are very confident that our baklava is actually the best. And Greeks say, no way, it's ours. But the beauty of food, of course, is it's nobody's baklava. It's everyone's. And I like that. I like the way food transcends national and nationalistic borders.
Beautiful. The book is also about the value of memory. It's really an important topic. And I think food is a perfect storage for memories in a way. And I think we can also talk about the Madeleines, because they are a perfect symbol for this idea in Marcel Proust's novel In Search of Lost Time.
Yeah, true. And I think it's not a coincidence, I mean, that for many authors, food has always been the way our memories are triggered. The way memory works, I think, is very emotional, and it's also connected to the senses. It's sensual.
And Marcel Proust, the French writer, writes in his book that when he dips a Madeleine in a cup of tea, for example, this reminds him of his childhood. Childhood comes back in a way from the smell and the flavor. Which food does remind you of your childhood?
Yeah, there's so much. I noticed recently that I very much associate the smell of roasted chestnuts with Istanbul. Mm-hmm. So wherever in the world I might be, if I pick that smell in the wind, for me, it's Istanbul.
Yeah, Elif, in your most recent book, Das Flüstern der Feigenbäume, you introduce a very special voice, a very special narrator, namely a fig tree, carrying these wonderful fruits. Yes, indeed, yeah. So how comes that you introduce such a voice?
In the book, the fig tree, first of all, it's a female tree. She's an immigrant tree, and she makes a claim. She claims that the tree in the Garden of Eden, from which Adam and Eve ate, was not an apple tree, in fact. She claims it was a fig tree, and then she explains why. Mm-hmm.
And the story in the book revolves around the civil war in Cyprus. And a big question you raise up in the book is whether children should be taught about the story of war parents had to suffer. What is your answer to that?
What I have been observing as a writer on both sides of the Atlantic, actually, especially in immigrant families or any family that comes from a complex background, memory can be a difficult issue. We always talk about family stories, but there are also family silences. And those silences, even when we don't talk about them, they shape us, they affect us. And the young people are aware of this, they can sense it.
You had many problems with Turkish government. There was also a book which was burned in public. You were accused in Turkey. Do you tell your children what happened?
In the age of internet, of course, they can Google it and look it up and find it out also themselves. This novel is called The Bastard of Istanbul, and it talks about the Armenian genocide, which is a big taboo in Turkey. And when the book was published, it was put on trial for insulting Turkishness, even though nobody knows quite what that means. But frankly, it was also very surreal because for the first time, a work of fiction was put on trial in this way, which means fictional characters, their words were used as evidence in the courtroom. It was absurd, it was unnerving. Also, there were ultranationalist groups on the streets burning EU flags, you know, spitting at my pictures. But I guess my point is, words can be heavy in Turkey.
I have also brought along a sweet named Basler Läckerli.
Okay, that I don't know.
And yeah, you have to taste it. Basler Läckerli are typical Basel. So I was born in Basel and my grandparents lived in Basel. It reminds me of my childhood, but it reminds me also of a conversation with the historian Fritz Stern. He has sadly passed away, but he loved also Basler Läckerli, and I brought Läckerlis along in the studio. And he even said that for him, he called them emergency cookies when he was a child. He had to flee from the Nazis. He was a Jew from Breslau, and at the age of 12, he had to flee with his family. And he wrote wonderful books, and he said that it's all about being home in a foreign country. So my question to you is, how is it possible to find a new home in a foreign country?
I don't think it's easy. I'm very interested in roots. How does it feel to be uprooted, rerouted, deracinated almost? You know, sometimes in Turkey they say, oh, you're a rootless cosmopolitan. So I think there is a certain melancholy to being an immigrant, an exile. It's like you carry several places in your soul at the same time. But that said, I'm a big believer in multiple belongings rather than static identities. I also believe that we are citizens of humankind. You know, so I want to think of home in a broader context. But at the end of the day, I think for me, home is always Storyland. That's my motherland.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for this conversation. Ja, Elif Shafak war auch zu Gast in der Sternstunde Philosophie und wenn ihr die ganze Sendung sehen möchtet, dann klickt hier.